So we're gonna get going here in just a second. I'm gonna let you guys know we're gonna mute everybody except hopefully me. You may want to mute me once I get started, but let me get started first. If you do have any comments or questions, you can put them in the chat. If you don't see the chat, it should be over on the right. If not, if you kind of hover your mouse across the screen in the center, you'll see a couple of different bubbles. One of them will look like a chat bubble. Click that and you'll see the chat pop up. We're also streaming live on Facebook, so anyone that's watching on our Facebook Home Products page, on the chat there, you'll be able to put comments and questions in there as well. Just so you know, I'll be presenting today, so I won't be able to see those comments. So if you need to get my attention, put the information in the chat. Kevin, Rob, and possibly even Doug will chime in and let me know what's going on or answer those questions. So since it is time to get started, let me do the proper introductions. For those of you who don't know who I am, my name is Steve Turrisi. I'm the Director of Training and Technical Services here at JL Audio. I'm actually physically located just a few miles north of our main facility down in Miramar, Florida. I have with me today Rob Haynes, who's located in Southern California. Say hello, Rob.
Hi, everyone. Welcome.
Excellent. And I have Kevin Ferry, who's up in Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Say hello, Kevin.
Hello, everybody.
The three of us make up our training team, but we also have a special guest star with us today, Mr. Doug Henderson himself. If you don't know who Doug is, he is the man behind our home products division. Doug, would you mind saying hello, please?
Hello, everyone. Glad to be here.
Fantastic. Okay, so the rules of the road. We stay muted unless you need, unless called upon specifically. Doug, this doesn't apply to you. You can unmute whenever you need to. These sessions are specifically designed and intended for a web-based presentation, so we've made some modifications to streamline the content and keep it fairly focused. So today's an overview of our home products division, and it's impossible to get into any of the details in a short session, and our session is intended to last about 30 to 45 minutes. We'll have some time for questions and answers, hopefully. But again, this is sort of a teaser about the overall, kind of an overview of the whole home products category. We have some other sessions that are planned for in the future, including an Add a Sub and a couple other ones that Doug and I have been talking about. And as we develop those, we will make those publicly known as soon as we know exactly what we're going to do and when. So without further ado, guys, I'm going to ask you to let me know when my screen is being shared. So let me get into that. All right, do we have the right screen showing?
Looks good.
Fantastic. So as the screen tells us, we're going to talk about JL Audio home products. I'm going to do a quick overview. Going to give you a little bit of insight about our company, kind of the history a little bit, and kind of share some images from within. We're going to then talk about the products in general, our electronic stuff, our powered subwoofers, the architectural solutions, and get into some of the details with that. We'll do a quick summary and then get into some Q&A at the end if we haven't answered those questions already. So jumping in, JL Audio. Gosh, where do I even start? The company was actually founded back in the mid-1970s, and ever since we've been designing and building high-quality audio for whatever the venue may be. We started off with a lot of pro sound, like DJ kind of stuff, believe it or not, and we got into mobile audio stuff. We've done marine audio, power sports, and of course the home audio division. That's our focus today. And we are a privately held, independently held company with somewhere around 500 people there. I lose track. It changes all the time. We're constantly adding and subtracting people as we go, more adding than subtracting. And all of us are driven with our passion and commitment to make really good stuff. The truth is we like this stuff, and we make the stuff that we really enjoy. And the fact that everybody else seems to enjoy it makes us really happy, and it gives us the opportunity to continue making stuff. So that's kind of the gist of JL Audio. And this is home. This is our main facility down in Miramar, Florida. For those not familiar with the area down here, Miami you probably know, and you probably know Fort Lauderdale. Miramar's a model-sized city, just kind of between the two of those. If you're a football fan, Dolphin Stadium is just a couple of miles away. I happen to be one of those people, so yes, I'm one of the few. So the facility itself down here in Florida is about 200,000 square feet, and most of our manufacturing is done there, and most of our engineering is done there. It's also the headquarters for our finance, our customer service, training, tech support, and so on. We also have a facility in Phoenix that adds about another 5,500 square feet. We do a lot of engineering of our electronic stuff over there, some DSP work. We also have a small shipping team over there that can handle a lot of the West Coast facility. And little known to many people, we have a Portland facility that's another 5,000 square feet, and that's all engineering, mostly DSP focused, and our firmware for our DSP based product is written by our team up in that location. There's a smattering of other facilities and small offices around the country and in other countries as well to work with our suppliers and whatnot. So we're kind of spread out, but our main headquarters is right there in front of you. It's a beautiful building. We love it.
That entire building is us, by the way, and we have space in an adjacent building, and we're looking to take more space in that adjacent.
That's sort of an underlying theme of the whole conversation is we're always looking to take more space. I do have a spy photo that I've included in my presentation. Hopefully my boss man don't get mad at me. But we're always expanding and changing. When we all get back to full steam down there, it's going to be crazy when we go in. But I know Doug, and I know Doug will be sharing images with people as soon as we possibly can. Inside that magical building, you'll find this man. That is the L. That's Lucio. Next to him is a guy named KK, one of many engineers that are part of the team. All engineering starts with him. The company started with him. He's the CEO, founder, and head engineer for basically all products. He does work with an incredible team of engineers that he's built over the years from all the disciplines, mechanical, electrical, acoustical, environmental, DSP, you name it, any application of engineering, we got someone that excels in that working on staff for us. It's been a tremendous run over the past 45 years or so of us adding engineering horsepower to fulfill the dreams and visions that Lucio's kind of provided for all of us. So it's pretty special. And one of the biggest things that he's brought is the ability to build product on premises, which is something that's sadly dying. We don't see enough of that, in our opinion. The image that you're looking at there in the upper left-hand corner is a shot of our eSub driver assembly line, where we build those parts in-house. Just below it is the final assembly of some of the Fathom product. Again, that's all done in-house. And one of my favorite pictures of all times is that gentleman that's polishing the top of the Gotham. That is not Photoshop. That is exactly what you should expect when you get a Gotham, to be able to see your reflection just like you see there. If you ever are down in South Florida and you want to take a tour of our facility, please let us know. We do like giving tours of the facility. We just need a couple of days notice to make sure that someone's there to give you the tour. One of the highlights for me is when you go into the room where they do the finish work on the Gotham. There's a gentleman that's been working with us for, I don't know, 15, 16, 18 years. He's personally handled every single one of the Gothams. He does the finishing work on it. And he actually has pictures of many of them like their children. The pride that he takes is incredible. So it's truly a special facility when you get down there. Sorry, rambling a bit. All right, next up, some more images. Up in the upper left-hand corner there, you'll see Lucio, one of our machinists. We have a state-of-the-art machine shop that's actually going through an expansion right now. So the image that you see on the bottom is it's a part of some sort. And one of the things that's kind of interesting for me as an audio geek is I want to go in there and I want to see all the prototypes. And yes, there are lots of prototypes that are floating around there, all the metal parts we can machine on premises. But the other part of the machine shop I think is even more important, maybe not as cool, but it's more important. We can design and build all of our own fixtures for production, and we do. Almost everything that we use in production is custom built by our machine shop for our products. So it's kind of a special way that we can actually build on premises because we have this machine shop. And like I mentioned, there's more machining going on now as we just expanded that department. Another great image is a gentleman that's assembling that in-wall subwoofer system. We're going to talk about that in a little while. That's one of the in-wall 8-inch subwoofer systems. I just love that he's in there working with his hands, and he's truly a craftsman, and we have a facility filled with people just like him. Designing a product is one thing. Building it to the highest level is another, and we could do both. Here's my spy shot. Doug, I don't know if you've even had a chance to go through this area recently, but this is an expansion of our driver assembly line. Kevin, Rob, and I were talking earlier, and they wanted to know, are they building a home subs there? I said, I don't know. I'm not even sure what we're going to build there. It's that new. This is less than 2 weeks ago, and you can see that that's a brand new assembly line. You can see there's a bunch of crap in the foreground as well, but that's just showing you that this is in progress right now, and this will add, I guess it's about 4 more production lines. So I think that brings our total to 12 or 13 independent production lines to build our products in South Florida. We are growing. It's been great, and we're going to continue to grow. We're reinvesting in the company. So that's sort of the big picture of who JL Audio is as a company, and we're going to get into product now.
Steve, before you jump off of that spy shot there, if you can go back.
I'm in.
So that white office on the far right is a mobile office. And one of the things that I think is really cool is the degree of flexibility we have around the factory. So that office can be rolled into position or moved to a new position when the lines have to change.
So cool, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We've actually seen them do that on occasion, where they actually move the offices. It doesn't happen very often. It usually happens on the weekend, so we don't see it. But one of the hard things about the renovation type things that we do is the disruption to our production. So we've had, as you might know, we've had a little bit of downtime, so we actually took advantage of that to do some of the expansion that we had been planning for a few months. So it sped it up quite a bit.
There's nothing more annoying than when you're going to go to someone's office and you get there and the office is no longer there.
It's not there anymore.
This 200,000 square foot facility to find it.
So true, so true. So anyway, let's get into the electronics real quick. Really two things we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about the JLINK wireless audio system and the CR1. We'll start off with that JLINK. The JLINK is kind of a neat problem solver. It's a wireless audio solution. It's a really good way of transmitting a full range audio signal from one point to another point in a room without having to run wires. If you've got a set of powered speakers that you need to get audio to and you don't want to run speaker wire through the walls or anything like that or under carpet, you can use a JLINK system and transmit that audio. I did say full range. That wasn't a mistake. It is a full range signal. So whatever you put into the transmitter is what's going to be transmitted. Now the Dominion does actually have a JLINK port on it, so you can actually send wireless audio full range to the Dominion sub directly to it with a simple cable, and you'll get a signal to that subwoofer. You could also piggyback off of that and power up a pair of bookshelf speakers if they're powered over there as well. I actually used this at a setting. I was working at a local college and we were going to be showing a movie, and I brought a whole bunch of these little powered speakers and I used JLINK to put audio all around this classroom so that I could have the music and the audio from the movie all over the place. And I certainly wasn't going to run wires across the whole room. Found an outlet, plugged in a speaker, hooked up the JLINK, and off I went. It worked out really, really well. So you can have one transmitter and up to 4 receivers, and there's a channel selection just to make sure you don't have interference. So that's a really cool, neat thing if you need to run audio across a distance. Definitely give JLINK a good look. That brings up the CR1. This is an active subwoofer crossover. The tagline there is one of a kind, and it kind of is. I think it's one of the best subwoofer integration tools that you're going to find anywhere. Basically, this is a way that you could dial in your dedicated subwoofer to blend into your 2-channel or your multi-channel audio system. And there's a couple of features about it that I think are really kind of neat. Let me get into a couple of them. Dedicated high-pass and low-pass filtering. So the subwoofer gets a new low-pass filter through the CR1, and then the high-pass goes out to your mains amplifier, and we can actually filter out the low frequencies from those as well. This can really allow a much better blending of the two devices, the subwoofer and the main speakers. When you want to do it right, the CR1 is instrumental in doing that. So a couple other things that I really like is there's a subset level control, and what's kind of neat about this is there's lots of ways of doing level control, but the subset level control is a single adjustment that'll take it away energy from one and shift it to the other. So it's a constant blend between the two. So you don't have to adjust the sub and then go and adjust the mains. You use one control and it makes it a lot easier to dial things in. But I think one of my favorite features, funny enough, is the bypass button. And most people say, you like the bypass? You want to turn the product off? It's different than that. It's not just turning it off, it's undoing what it's done. So when you dial in a CR1 and you get the subs and the mains to blend in ever so perfectly, what you can do is then bypass it and have the mains play full range. Full range should be in air quotes. So it'll play full range, and you'll see what the addition of that subwoofer actually did to make the main speakers sound better. Most companies that make super high quality floor standing speakers, when they hear a CR1 with a subwoofer added correctly and then they hear disengaged, they think we broke their speakers. And it's like, nope, nothing like that. We added to them. It's a nice compliment, and the CR1 makes it work that way. The difference is remarkable when it's done right. And when it's done right, you get reviews like this. The Gotham and the CR1 are tickets to full range bliss you've never before experienced. And you can read the rest whatever you like, but the point here is, when you dial it in right, the CR1 and a quality subwoofer can be an instrumental part of your audio system and make it sound fantastic. I really enjoy the CR1. If you have a way of integrating that into your system, I strongly recommend giving it a look. Or a listen. Depends on your point of view. All right, let's move on. Let's get into the powered subwoofers. Probably the stars of the show. Most people know us for our powered subwoofers. And I kind of look at this as, pretty much every level, there's a purpose-built and designed driver, amplifier, enclosure, all of it. Everything is purpose-built at each one of these different levels that we're going to talk about, the Dominion, eSub, Fathom, and the Gotham. And one thing that I always get a little tense about with this is sometimes when an engineer gets something in their head that this is the way everything should be, you wind up with their vision. When you got a team of engineers like we've got that have dedicated people on processors, on amplifiers, on enclosure design, on drivers, the integration of all of those, acoustic design, all these things, when they come together by passionate people, you wind up with a product that can be truly magical. I often say that it's greater than the sum of the parts. It's not just a woofer in a box with an amp and a processor. It's an integrated system that's designed for performance. And we'll start off talking about the Dominion. The tagline on this one, I thought it was a really good one. It's the obvious step up. And, the truth is you can't really deny that there's going to be a less expensive product out there than a JL Audio subwoofer. So the step up is when you're ready or you want to go into a JL Audio level product, the Dominion is an obvious step up. It's something that's a really fantastic product, and it can bring a lot of the technologies that we use on the rest of the line into your price point here. So we'll talk a lot about these DMA optimized drivers. DMA is dynamic motor analysis. It's an analysis system that JL Audio has developed over the past 20-something years that allows us to really dial in the overall performance of a subwoofer, a mid-range, or any type of moving loudspeaker that we can get our hands on, so to speak. And the result of that is a much lower distortion, much more optimized system for that subwoofer. And even at the Dominion level, this is a driver designed and built by our team down in South Florida, so that's a fantastic thing. The electronics package is purpose-built. This is not just an off-the-shelf amplifier that we happen to throw in there. It was designed not only for the form factor, but for the performance for the Dominion product. And again, I mentioned earlier that the JLINK does dial in with the Dominion. So if you're looking to do an add-on to maybe a dorm system or something like that, that JLINK could be a really good combination together with the Dominion product. I get everything there, Doug?
Yeah, no, it's all good. And I often say that the difference between a Dominion, which has a U.S. retail of $900, and sort of an average subwoofer is particularly measured over the length of time you're going to own that product is pretty insignificant.
An excellent point. The longevity of the product, we do build in a lot of that with the designs, and we try to make sure the product is going to last for years. We know it's not an insignificant expense for a lot of people to purchase a JL Audio product, and we want them to get years of performance from it. So it's a really good addition, Doug. Thank you for bringing that up. All right, let's move on to the eSub. And I love this image of the eSub, that exploded view that you can actually see what's going on with the driver. And the thing that draws my eye, I'm a speaker geek, I see two spiders on that. And I'll tell you that that's the only sub in the entire line that has a dual spider configuration. And the reason for that is that's a purpose-built driver that's intended to actually combine the enclosure together. The driver itself is actually a part of the bracing of the internal structure of the enclosure. It's hard to see from these images, but the way this thing goes together, it bolts in from the front and it holds that together, and there's a bolt in from the back that literally locks the frame in step with the entire enclosure. So it's truly a one-of-a-kind type of product, and the reason for the dual spiders is to accommodate the enormous amount of excursion capability that this has, but it's a lot more than just excursion. So this is a tough one because a lot of companies can make a high excursion woofer. So the fact that it can physically move far is really only one small part of the picture. Doing so with control, detail, and accuracy, that requires a lot of effort. And the team has spent years and years and years developing that DMA structure, the dynamic motor analysis, and a very, very careful finite element analysis of all of the aspects of the suspension, the surround, and of course those dual spiders. So controlling that excursion is a big, big deal. So the electronics on the eSub, again, is purpose-built. The form factor of it is a little bit different. The controls on this one are kind of on the back edge. You can kind of see a little lip on the subwoofer there. There's a little magnetic panel that you lift off, and you have the controls for the low-pass filter and all the other features that are built into it. When it's all combined, you got a rock-solid sub that can be integrated into almost any system. It does have a high and a low-pass filter in it. So that allows you to integrate in really nicely if you wanted to do a proper integration of a subwoofer. That does have that. There's also a line level output. So if you wanted to use one or two subwoofers, you can easily cascade out and handle things that way. So that's a nice way of adding additional subwoofers. Doug and I have been working on a presentation for adding a subwoofer. It'll be sort of an overview process there as well, where we kind of talk about the things you need to be worried about when you add a subwoofer, and using a proper electronic filtering like this is a big part of that conversation. So keep your eye out for that one. So,
hey, one thing I'll point out, Steve, and it's in the bullet points, is that with the Dominion and the E-Sub, the front baffle is actually part of the driver. And again, that adds to structural rigidity all the way through the system.
right on.
The only thing we want moving
Is the piston, yeah, the part that's making the fun stuff, right? We don't want anything else moving. So.
What amazes me on the E-Sub is that, you know, if you've ever held the E-Sub driver by itself, that thing's heavy.
Yeah,
and it's actually, the back of the motor is even bolted into the enclosure if you take out the amplifier. So, I mean, that thing is rock solid in there.
It really is. It really is. So a number of years ago, I actually did a little video on how to replace the driver in this, because it's not a matter of just unscrewing it. Like Doug said, it is integral for the entire system. The whole thing is bolted together. It's one rock solid piece. It's very impressive. Something as a slight side note here is our mobile audio customers, they see a driver like this and like, well, how come we don't have that? Look at the depth of that enclosure. it's not insignificant. Fitting that in the car would be a challenge in most cases. So it's not appropriate for that application for that reason. So some accolades that we've received here on this one. It's a no-brainer, highest recommendation if I ever had heard one. So that tells you that someone really likes this, and this is coming from someone that typically hates subwoofers, or at least used to it until he heard the E-Sub. The E-Sub is one of the best subs to integrate into almost every system. It's a step up from the Dominion. It's not quite a Fathom, but boy, man, it's within spitting distance. It's dangerously close. A pair of E-Subs against a Fathom, that's a race I want to be a part of. So speaking of Fathoms, we're in version 2. We call it unprecedented, and this is truly a tour de force of engineering. From the amplifier design, the signal processing, the form factor of the enclosure, the way the subwoofer is designed and built, every aspect of this thing has been truly groundbreaking. It's razor sharp detail, extension that'll just blow your mind. When we launched these some years ago, I don't think the market had seen anything quite like it in terms of performance. And at the heart of it was that driver that you see right there. That's our W7HT. It's built on the W7 platform that has been around for some time, and it's been refined over all these years. And we talk a lot about excursion with these drivers. A lot of people think a subwoofer is like a piston or a pump. It's actually a lot more than that. So excursion is a big part of that. Some people think excursion is just the way that you get to play loud. And yes, excursion does allow you to play loud, but it's more important than that. If you have a driver that's playing at a certain level at a higher frequency, say 100 hertz, and you want to keep that same level as you go lower in frequency, like 1 octave down, so from 100 hertz down to 50 hertz, if you want to maintain the same level, the driver is going to have to move 4 times further to maintain the same level as it did at the higher frequency. So in this example, if it was moving, let's just say, a 1/4 inch at 100 hertz, it has to move a full inch at 50 hertz. But we all know the bass is going to extend down even lower. So from 50 hertz down to 25, it now has to move 4 inches. Most drivers can't do that. Fathom drivers, some of them can do that. It's a massive speaker that can actually play low frequencies as loud as it can play higher frequencies. And that's the reason we focus on excursion. Not just to be able to play loud, but to be able to play low frequencies effortlessly without compromise. And the Fathom product was one of the first products on the market that could actually extend down to some of those lower octaves with authority and resolution like no one had heard before. It really established us as a premier audio company for home audio, something that had not been done by another car audio company, I don't think ever, not to that level anyway. So the W7HT woofers definitely deliver. But it's not where it stops. Again, this is a full engineering effort. The enclosure design and, of course, the electronics. Part of the electronics is the processing. And we have a system that we call DARO, for an abbreviation. It stands for Digital Automatic Room Optimization. And without getting too far into the details, effectively what this is, it's a fully automated 18-band parametric equalizer that's basically going to analyze the room response, and it's going to find the worst offending in-room nodes that'll be affecting the frequency response. It's going to find them and then squish them down so that the room response is a lot more even. Now, one concern I always had when we did something like this is if you listen to the system before you calibrated, there would be a certain amount of energy coming from the subwoofer. And then when we squish down all those peaks, the average energy is going to sound like it's a lot less. It may be smoother, but to your hearing, it might sound like you've lost amplitude. One of the cool parts of DARO is the fact that it does a room analysis and measures the level. Then it equalizes down, then it boosts that level back up, which is why we have such a potent amplifier on there to allow us to deliver that average energy without killing it through the parametric equalization. The result is a much smoother response without a loss of level. So check that out if you get an opportunity. You get much better response when you use that. And for those that are concerned, you can turn it off. If you don't like the result, you can turn it off. So some of the reviews we got on this, Adam has a way with words. He really liked the performance of the subwoofer, but I like the end of it. It has an ability to move stupid amounts of air. So obviously the focus of this is the fact that it can actually excite a lot of energy in a room. You don't need to go crazy with level on this thing. It's got enough potential to do what you need. We will talk a lot about multiple subwoofers when we do the add a sub conversation, but a single Fathom in a room, I had one in my house for a while. Man, it just was amazing, the amount of performance you could get from a single one of these. So just, you know, if it's in your means there, the Fathom is definitely the one that I would take a good strong look at.
Hey, Steve.
Yeah.
We got a question from a guy in the chat here, and I know it's kind of leading into our next session, but if we can give him just a quick, short answer. And he's asking, in high-end home theater, when using advanced processor, is it better to use the sub's EQ mic or the processor's EQ mic to calibrate the bass?
So unless Doug wants to take it, I'll take it.
Well, I'm happy to. So in my experience, you would run the Fathom EQ, the Darrow EQ first. Get the subwoofer as linear as possible in the room, and then run the processor's EQ on top of that. You'll probably find that there'll be much bigger changes with the processor receiver's EQ. So in my experience, you want to turn that off and on and really give a good listen. You may run that more than once and judge its effect. But we would start with the subwoofer.
Yeah, definitely. I totally agree with that. The other thing I would share is use whatever microphone came with the system that you're using. So use our mic when you do the DARO, the Darrow, and use their microphone when you're doing their processor. There may be calibration differences between them, and you want to make sure you're getting the results that the company that designed it was intending. So,
Absolutely.
excellent, Doug. Thank you for that. And that brings up the big boy, the Gotham itself, the king of bass. This is truly a statement product on every single level. In the theater, traditional 2-channel systems, the Gotham is going to be a fantastic complement to any one of those. The texture, the detail, the dynamics, the extension that you get from this thing, it's almost breathtaking. I remember there was a demonstration that was being done, and we have a home theater room down at the main facility, and we had a pair of the Gothams, which is... if you could do that, man, do it. But we had 2 of the Gothams, and Brett was playing some audio tracks with some amazing amount of low frequency. And the quality of the cabinetry, it's, you know, you could see it in the image there, but these are solid fiberglass enclosures that are on either side of the room. And he was like kind of leaning up to it, and seeing the woofer move as far as it was moving, and the whole thing is just like a rock, and the whole room is pressurized, and it's detailed. It's like, holy crap, we really got this one dialed in. It was such a cool experience. You know, this is a driver that is going to be doing 4 inches peak to peak here without a problem. We got a 4,500 watt amplifier on there to make sure that room level is all nice and good. Just the quality of craftsmanship, this is truly a statement piece. And you know, honestly, everything about it is, I've seen some people sort of integrate this into like a wall space for a theater, and I kind of cry a little bit because it just screams to be looked at. It was intended to be an eye catcher as well as an ear catcher. There's nothing that I'd want to do to hide this thing. If I could afford a pair of these things, I would put them proudly out there right next to my main speakers and just really enjoy them. The finish on it, you saw the smiling man earlier who was polishing that thing on the top. The finish is amazing. I can't say enough great things about the quality of the craftsmanship that goes into this. It takes about 5 weeks for us to actually build one, and a significant amount of that time is the dry time for the finish on that, because we want to make sure it's going to stay that way for many, many years to come. Doug, I think you have something to share about the way the finish is done and some of the things that we've looked at over the years to make sure it stays that way.
Well, first of all, I'm not sure everyone can hear me. A couple of people have come back and said that my audio quality is not good, so sorry about that.
It's clear to me.
All right. Well, I took some effort to try to make sure I would come in okay with an outboard microphone, but it's tough with these things. Yes. So I'm not sure exactly where you were going, Steve, but I know, having watched it being finished, that yeah, the fellow that does the polishing will mark spots on the enclosure with like a grease pencil, so that he's kind of refining the process as he goes through and making sure that every little spot is being addressed, so that literally it's coming out like glass when it's done. It's a very long process to build a Gotham. And forgive me if you've already said this, I missed it, but it's about a 5-week process from start to finish.
It's crazy. So Doug is a bit of a shutterbug, and he walks around the facility taking all kinds of spy photos. And I've noticed he spent a lot of time taking pictures of the process of the finishing of the Gotham. And I understand why. He's out in the field and he's talking with people all the time, and he wants to show them what goes into this product. And obviously we have our marketing images that we like to show off, kind of like the images you're looking at in our presentation here. But Doug likes to kind of peel the curtain back and show that off. That's why I called on you, Doug, because I knew you had something to say about the way they...
And I'm such a fan, really. I mean, the first time I visited the factory, I was just completely unprepared for everything I saw. I think that's probably, Steve, you've given 100 tours or 1,000 tours. I'm sure that's a common reaction.
It is. It's people are really surprised at how much we're actually doing there. So the office space is insignificant compared to our assembly areas and our production capabilities. And that's the thing that most people walk away from about the factory, that they take away from the tour, is, wow, I had no idea you guys were doing all this stuff here. It's like, yep, we're doing this and more. And you saw some of the images earlier of the facility and some of the expansion we're doing. And like I keep saying, keep watching the space, because we're far from done. We have plans for the future. Just keep watching the space. Trust me on that one. So
keep watching the space. I'll also make a quick observation, and again, I hope people can hear me, that Lucio Proni is just, this is his life. This is what he lives. He is having fun when he's designing. Right? There aren't, I know he has other interests in his life, but his business and doing what he does is his primary interest. And again, that just always impresses me. After all these years, what is 45 years, he's as motivated and as happy in his work as probably the day he started, or even more so.
Yeah, I would agree. I definitely agree with that. And Rob, Kevin, and I, we were developing some of the training content, and we went through and we were looking at some of the more recent patents that we've received on some of the different designs. And if you think we're slowing down, we've got more patents over the past couple of years than even I was aware of. So there's some really cool stuff coming up, gang. Again, watch this space for sure. Anyway, back on track here. Accolades for the Gotham. Gotham G13, state-of-the-art base, and it'll improve the highest of the high-end system. I couldn't have wrote a better review myself. So when we get these kind of accolades, someone's appreciating the effort that we're putting out there. And thank you, because like Doug was just saying, Lucio and the entire team, we really like what we're doing, and we really do believe that you'll see and hear a difference in a product that's built and designed by people who really care, and we do. And I think it shows up really, really well with the Gotham. So, all right, so we're going to transition into the architectural solutions, and we do have 3 different versions of the architectural solution. The first one was our IWS, the version 2 we're in now. We had a system 113 and a system 213, a 113 or a 213. We also have the newer ones, the system 108 and the system 208, single 8 and a dual 8. And we also have an in-ceiling solution, the ICS 108. So we're going to kind of cover each one of these in a little bit of detail as we go forward. And I like to say that, as much as we love the Gotham and the Fathom and all those other floor-standing subwoofers, there's many applications where it's just not practical or not desirable in some cases. I just don't want to see it. I just want it to blend away and disappear, but I don't want to give up anything. I just don't want to look at it. we have this line of Fathom architectural solutions that you can get Fathom level performance without taking up space in the room, and that's really cool. So let's go ahead and take a look at these different options. The first one, the one that started it all, was the IWS, the Fathom IWS 113 and 213. Now the 13 is in reference to the size of the driver. It's a 13.5 inch, that's what we call it. And it uses a technology called a concentric tube, which is one of the very first patents that the company ever received. It's not the first one that went to market. That was a mobile audio product that went to market first. But we had a patent on the concentric tube. It's one of the earliest patents that the company ever had. And what this patent allowed us to do is to take this very large diameter piston and shrink it into a mounting depth that's about 2.5 inches deep. Now you're probably wondering, yeah, it's probably a weak little speaker. No, that's the patent part. The patent part allows us to get incredible excursion capability. Again, you know the importance of excursion without compromise. So even though it's a shallow speaker, it has an amazing amount of physical travel that you can actually get incredible sub-bass performance from a very, very small package. The idea was to fit it inside of a pair of 16-inch on center studs of typical North American construction. And that's exactly what we've done. We've built this enclosure that literally suspends inside of the cavity. The other part of it is it's not that deep because a lot of these walls that are adjoining walls, you have a room on either side. You don't have a lot of room between the wall board. You have to make sure that this fits within that cavity. So not only did we manage to get a large piston between the studs, but we also managed to fit it in between the wall board, which is a big deal. When you take a look at that enclosure, yeah, go ahead.
16-inch on center stud bay is about 14.5 inches wide, and we're fitting a 13.5 inch driver.
That's cool, isn't it?
That's pretty cool. That's pretty cool. No wasted space.
None at all. And no wasted performance either. We get all of it. And some of the performance aspect, it's a good segue, Doug, thank you. Some of the performance aspect is beyond just the driver. Doug mentioned earlier that you don't want anything else vibrating, you only want the piston moving. Well, this entire enclosure is literally floating inside the wall cavity because you don't want to try to excite any of the vibrations. Now, a lot of people think that we focus on the vibration because you don't want the wall vibrating, which is also part of it, but also every little bit of energy that's spent making a vibration that is literally taking away from the performance of the system. So by floating the IWS V2 inside the wall cavity, we're channeling all of the energy from the subwoofer directly into the listening space without exciting the wall. The difference is definitely worth the effort. A couple of good-looking guys some years ago created a training video on how to install one of these things. I happen to learn a lot from that process about how this thing goes in. Our engineering team, the patents that we did receive on this mounting system, I could see why. It was very carefully thought of, and we went through painstaking methods to make sure that the energy was channeled into the room. It hurts when we hear people, well, can't I just screw it in? And it's like, yeah, well, you could do whatever you'd like, but it's certainly not going to perform the way that we intended to. Take a moment, check the owner's manual. Yes, it's the paper document you usually throw away, but take a moment to look through that. And if you prefer, just go ahead and get to that video, and that video will kind of step you through exactly how to install an IWS into your wall cavity.
Doing that video, I learned a lot, not just, about how it mounts, but the fact that the height of the driver off the floor, it's not just for the limit vibrations, but to maximize the energy and the way that the grill decouples. I mean, so much thought went into this. It really is mind-blowing that you can have such a large driver in the wall, and if you do it right, minimizer, have no vibrations or noises, and just standalone Fathom performance that's completely out of sight is just, it's so cool. And the points are well deserved on that.
We were in I think it was Denver at, I think it was it had to be a CDU show some years ago. We had built our demo room, and we did it the way Lucio designs everything. It was built so that you could park a car on top of it. So we had the screen up in the front of the room, and we had 4 of the in-wall subs in the wall. So when people came in to sit down, they're looking around. We're known for our subwoofers, and they're looking around, and there are none. So we sit them down, we start playing music and stuff, and then we got into the dynamics of movies. And I remember, it was going back some years, but Ratatouille. I don't know if you remember this movie, but there's a scene where he's on the roof, and a bolt of lightning hits the roof. And I sat in the back of the room doing the demo, just watching everybody jump from the impact and the power of that boom from the bolt of lightning caused people to jump back, and they're still looking around, where is the hidden sub? Well, the hidden sub with the in-wall subwoofers. Fathom-like performances, no joke. It has the same electronics package. It's just in a separate chassis. It looks like this here. So that's the amplifier that comes with it. It does come with ears too if you wanted to rack mount it. So you have a couple of thousand watts of power per pair that you have on there. It has the full component of Darrow. So you have the full room calibration as part of that, and a full processor set, but that goes into your rack. So no compromises here. You get floor standing performance from an in-wall product. That's tremendous. And when you get reviews like this, it kind of sums up what we set out to accomplish. You know, uncompromised bass performance without taking up anything. There's only one game in town. Floor standing sub performance in a wall, done. We got it done. And we hit it with technology. That's kind of, you know, the MO of the company, engineering at its finest. It's, you know, if there's a problem, we'll find a solution. We'll engineer it.
So the 213 system was named Subwoofer of the Year, not in-wall Subwoofer of the Year, Subwoofer of the Year in January of this year by the Absolute Sound.
That's great.
Following that review. So one of the things I asked Robert Harley was, has any other architectural product ever won a Product of the Year award from the Absolute Sound? And the answer was no. So this is a first, that it would live in a company.
So good, because the effort that goes into this is not insignificant. And when we get the accolades, that's why we like to include them. We get the accolades, we want to share, because I could tell you all day long about how great it is, but of course I say that, I work here. You know? But when other people are sharing the same things that I would normally say, it really justifies the effort that we put into the product, and we really do appreciate when we get that. All right, so now let's get into the newer version of it, the 108 and the 208. This kind of expands the solutions that we have. They're smaller, but they're no less impressive than the 13-inch versions. These are intended to be a little bit easier to integrate into various different systems. And you can kind of see the assembly of the woofer there, as well as the inside of the enclosure. I have some other shots on that I'll share in just a moment. We say that it disappears, and it kind of does. As any good subwoofer should blend in and not call attention to itself, this does that both acoustically and visually as well. Much like we mentioned with the other in-wall, it has an external amplifier with a full DARO, but it also adds the ability for delay, which is really important for tight integration. There's an adjustable 3-band EQ on top of the automated one, which is kind of neat. The driver itself is kind of special. People look at it and say, oh my God, what did you do with that driver? Well, it's actually kind of a normal driver. We just flip-flop the suspension. So the spider is actually what's visible in the front, and the surround, normally visible, is actually in the backside of the speaker. And you'll see a common theme here on the in-wall versions of this. Some of them actually use the woofer to sandwich together and become part of the enclosure for rigidity and bracing. So again, we're hitting the problem of vibration and, you know, stress on the enclosure. We're hitting with an engineering effort. In this case, it's architectural, no pun intended, and it literally locks the enclosure in place with the woofer. Lucho has a background in being an architect, and he brings that into a lot of the designs of the product, and here's another good example of that. This craftsmanship that you're seeing on this thing, it's amazing. So I put in, surprise, I put in some extra images. Basically, you can see on the left-hand side of your screen sort of the cutaway version of it. And you see there's some ducting for the porting. You can see the braces up at the top. And earlier I showed the gentleman that was building it, and you can kind of see exactly what's going on. All of that is hand done, every bit of it. And one thing that I would get worried about when I share that is, oh, well, it's hand done, so what if it's not right? Well, the amount of testing that we do before we actually ship these things, we understand. This is going inside of a wall cavity. We really only get one shot to make this right. Otherwise, you've got to take part of the wall down. We get it, 100%. We have true craftsmen that are building these things for us to the highest standard, and we check every bit of it as we go through the process. It's kind of a nice reminder of what we're doing down there. Anyone could design an enclosure, but someone that can design something on this level and build it is, I think, what makes JL Audio a very special company. We're not just sending it somewhere to get it built. We're putting hands on. We got these people. They're our team. They're the ones building this stuff with us. It's great.
I love when you do the testing on the in-wall systems. They actually use a stethoscope, and actually will go down the length of the enclosure where the braces are to make sure the braces aren't vibrating. Then they go down the edges to make sure there's no air leaks. And also, it's the thought of the little things like rubber bands inside the 13-inch enclosure to put tension on the speaker wire so they're not flopping around in there. There's so many little details that went into designing these products.
Truly an amazing process.
Between the stethoscope and the rubber bands, those are just two really cool little details.
Without a doubt, without a doubt. Excellent addition, guys. Thank you for that.
I also enjoy the custom jigs for whenever we're doing the glue ups on them too. So make sure there's equal pressure everywhere and everything's nice and tight and solid. They're just every part of the manufacturing process on these is amazing.
So what Kevin's referring to with the fixturing, when you have a long span of, not the thickest wood ever, but, it's a moderately thick wood that goes over a long span, the wood has got a tendency to want to warp, and we have all this bracing on the inside to try to prevent a lot of that. But if the wood warps while it's drying, you wind up with those air gaps. Of course, the stethoscope would catch a lot of that, but that's also a lot of effort on our part that would be wasted. So we developed a rigging system that literally it's a hydraulic press. So we put the enclosures in after gluing them, and it puts equal pressure across the entire span for several hours while we wait for the adhesives to cure and dry. Then we bring it down to assembly area. We put a driver in before we go any further, like making the box all pretty. We'll put a driver in and we'll do the stethoscope test, and we'll listen for any ticks or buzzes or vibrations that might have been caused by the wood warping. And if it passes that, then we proceed with the assembly process, which is great news for our customers, but it's terrible news for the employees because there are no B stocks. It's either right or it doesn't go anywhere. So we always want to get a deal on this stuff because we want to bring it home for ourselves. We can't get any discounts. There's no B stocks. There's no blems. There's no damaged ones. They're all good or they're not. So interesting stuff. Anyway. So this is a shot of the SA600W. This is a subwoofer amplifier that comes with the in-wall and the in-ceiling products that we'll talk about in a moment. It's a dedicated amplifier, and again, it has the Darrow system in there with those additional features like signal delay. It also has high-pass output, so if you wanted to integrate in as a true two-way system, one channel, one dedicated subwoofer and then a high-pass for the mains, you can do that through the SA600W. And it's also rack mountable. You can see the ears on there that you could slip that in, and it's not very tall either, so it doesn't take a lot of space. So a nice little menu-driven DSP built into that one, so it's a lot of fun to work with. And last but not least, certainly not least, is the ICS, the in-ceiling speaker. Yes, we managed to put no compromise bass up in the ceiling. I know Doug gets really excited about this, so I'm going to try to get in my points before he interrupts because I know it's coming. So the way this thing is designed to work, it fits up into the ceiling for those locations where you may not be able to get into the wall. It is different than the other in-wall systems. It's a different mounting system, and the enclosure itself is also modified to give the performance that we're looking for in that location. Now, what I've seen a lot of people do is in some other areas other than even a theater area, you can certainly use this in a dedicated 2-channel room or a dedicated theater room. Absolutely a viable product for that. But I think where most people are missing the boat on this is if you have those other areas in the home. A kitchen or, an entryway or some other area where people may be, getting together listening to audio. What typically happens is you put tiny little in-ceiling speakers that have absolutely no low-end performance whatsoever. And you just keep it kind of as background noise, and you keep it low because they just can't play very well at all. You add something like this in, and again, you had the SA600W, or you have a high pass out. You could filter out the bass from ever going to the smaller speakers and let this thing handle that. Now that area that normally would just be background audio can be one of the main listening areas. Really brings things to life. Kitchens or wherever the case may be, secondary bedrooms, guest rooms, garages, wherever you have a place where you can get something in the ceiling, you now can get fantastic performing bass without compromise. Doug, go ahead. I'll let you go. I know you got something.
Yeah, no, look, I would remind people of a couple of things. One is that the kitchen is the primary entertaining room in most people's homes. And when you add real bass, which the IWS 108 or the in-ceiling 108 gives you, it gives you real bass. When you start the evening and you're at conversational levels, the music sounds much fuller and much more enjoyable. So the benefit is not just that you can play it louder, it's that you can play it quieter and have it still sound very full and enveloping and satisfying. And then as the evening goes on and the adult beverages flow and you want to crank it up, you can do that too, and it won't damage the relatively small in-ceiling speakers or in-wall speakers, typically in-ceiling speakers that you're using in those spaces. So, adding good bass to any room in a home where you want audio, where you want music, is going to be a big improvement.
Absolutely, 100%. That's why we did it.
Yeah.
So some of the accolades we got, you can go ahead and read that, but basically they're calling an ICS a perfect solution if you wanted to get great performance without compromise. It gave us a Product of the Year awards. It wins on multiple levels according to Jeff here. This is great stuff. And again, this is truly a combination of all of our engineering efforts, from driver design to electronics, industrial design, manufacturing. It'd be hard for anyone to do anything on the same level as what we've done with all of the products. And I think the ICS is a really great example of how focused we are on what we do and how we do it. So it's kind of a nice way to come to our summary slide. It is an engineering focused company. We design, develop, and produce our products the way we want to for the customers that come to appreciate it. We have solutions for most system levels. I won't say all system levels. There are some people that are just not ready for the performance that we offer. And as you can see with the architectural solutions, that we're addressing trends and we're anticipating the future. Doug and I are kind of coy about some of the things that we're working on at the main headquarters. But watch this space. The exciting things that you've seen from not only Fathom, Gotham, Dominion, and eSub, the architectural solutions. We have other things. We're far from done. Doug is an intricate part of the future of JL Audio, and we're really looking forward to the places he's going to bring us. So with that, we'll jump out of the keynote, and we'll take any questions that you guys may have that weren't already answered. Oh. So stop sharing. Hey, it's me again. Cool. So now that I'm out and I can see everything that you guys were saying about me, do we have any other questions that we didn't answer yet?
Missed the intro, Doug. They want to know who you are.
Doug. Who is Doug?
Who is Doug? Doug, who are you, buddy?
I'm still trying to figure that out, actually. So I am the senior vice president for home audio for JL Audio. As Steve mentioned, we're a diversified company with roots in car audio and marine audio and home audio now for 15 years. I joined, well, actually just 2 years ago. I've crossed the 2-year mark. Yes. Yeah. And I've had a very long, yes. I've had a very long career in the audio business, going back to my teenage days in the 1970s. And prior to JL Audio, I was involved with a company called B&W, Bowers and Wilkins, and was there for a bunch of years. So, but thrilled to be with this company because we've got an absolutely awesome team, and we are working on some really cool stuff for the future.
So let me, if I may jump in and embarrass Doug just a little bit here. When they were in negotiation with Doug to find out if he wanted to join our team and become part of our family, there was a lot of high-level conversation going on with and about Doug. And I remember the guy that I report to, he was telling me that we have some changes that we're going to do for home audio. And of course, it's my company too, So I was like, well, who is this guy? He says, I'm not at liberty to say just yet. But we're working with him, and I think you'll be really excited. And I said one thing to him. I said, "Is he the right guy?" Without hesitation, he said, "Oh yeah, this is the guy." I said, "Fantastic! I don't even care who it is. When the time is right, I know he's the right guy." And then when I found out who it was, I'm like, "Oh yeah, it is the right guy." So Doug brings with him a world of experience that we definitely are looking for with our home audio division. And what he's been able to do in the 2 years he's been with us has been transformative. He came into a structure that we already had some ideas about what we wanted to do, and he's taken those ideas and made them even bigger and even better. So again, watch this space. We've got the right people in place, and we've got the best engineers in the world. We got some cool stuff coming, boys.
Well, thank you for the kind words, and I certainly agree with the second part of that statement. So we have some fabulous people.
We do.
It's been a lot of fun, and just a great organization to work with.
I agree. I couldn't agree more. So, someone calls it the dream team. I see in WebEx. I'd like to think so. A little bias, I guess.
So, Steve, we do have a question on Facebook from Josh asking for a little more about the design focus on the drivers using the ICS 108 and IWS 108 systems. Can you or Doug provide a little more insight on that really cool looking speaker Lucio and the team came up with?
those drivers are kind of someone called them the world's biggest tweeters, but they're kind of like a tweeter with long excursion capabilities, where the motor system is nested up in the cone area. And the new invention that enabled that to happen was what we call the concentric tube, which is a device that joins the suspension elements and allows that to remain very flat. And there's some good images on the website if you want to sort of dig into that. But they really are kind of works of art from a mechanical engineering standpoint. To do what they do in that format is, it's nothing short of remarkable. People hear the 8-inch and they're completely blown away. I'm sure that there are a number of people on the call here who can attest to that, who've used those products or own those products. It's kind of a jaw-dropping experience to hear an 8-inch in-wall that can produce not only the volume of output, but the quality of output that the 108 does.
I remember when Doug first came on, he was really excited about our architectural solutions. He had felt for years, from what he tells me, that there was a shortcoming in a lot of the solutions that were available. And the fact that we had something that was so cool and innovative, his frustration was that people discounted the fact that an 8-inch could actually perform. So he made us jump through a million different hoops to come up with an in-store display so that we could actually do a demonstration of what an 8-inch could actually do. Fully acknowledging that it would never be even as good as it would be in a proper installation, but at least we could give some indication that this is no joke. This is a true full-performing subwoofer. So that's it was a really good observation, and you really pissed off a lot of people, but we got it done.
Truth of the matter is, the biggest hurdle we had was the generally poor reputation of in-wall subwoofers.
Yeah.
So without being able to put that out in front of people, it was a challenging sale. Now, having done that, we can't build them fast enough. Our team, including the gentleman you saw, his name is Barry, have been doing heroic work to keep up with demand. Even through this coronavirus crisis, the demand for those products continues to rise. So.
Absolutely true. So in short, Josh, the answer is lots of great technologies in there. One thing that I kind of touched on a little bit is the fact that Lucio has a background in architectural design, and not so much architectural solutions like we've been talking about with the product, but the geometry of the way things go together for rigidity and strength, a big part of designing buildings and other architectural things like that. It's about rigidity and strength. And a lot of the products that we make, subwoofers and all the enclosures, are all focused on this rigidity aspect that we've been talking about, making sure that the energy is going where we want it and not where we don't. So the solution, both in the concentric tube that Doug explained to us so well as what's going on with that 8-inch driver, all of it is about the architecture of it to make sure that the energy is being delivered where it's supposed to without any compromise to the motions of the driver. So it's sort of a fluff answer to something that could take hours to really get into, but engineering effort at its highest, really.
So you guys are opening up a lot of doors for questions of what kind of products are coming down the road. We've got a couple guys saying, hey, you guys are really good at marine. Is there any outdoor products coming down the line?
I'm sorry, the connection is getting bad. I don't think I hear anybody. I see Doug smiling.
So one came up that asking about a Fathom 10. Well,
that's a great idea. We'll ship it to you. That's an easy one. Done.
That one you could get today. Exactly.
Notice how I followed that one up with the hard one, right?
So there's a lot of things to unpack with Kevin's thing there. Outdoor speakers and things of that nature is certainly something that we've toyed around with. There's sort of a hybrid that has happened between the home audio and the marine audio. We make a product that we call the Moby. It's this gigantic fiberglass thing, and it has two separate chambers. One's for a 7.7-inch coaxial speaker, and the other chamber is for a 10-inch subwoofer. And you would buy amp this, and it comes with a mounting bracket that could be put under the easement of a home or out by a pool deck, because it is fully weatherproof. So yes, we have kind of played around with that a little bit, but the amount of energy that's gone into that so far, as you know, hasn't been fully vetted out. So that's something we're always interested in. If we can put audio to JL Audio standards, in those locations, I would expect to see that at some point. Safe answer there, Doug?
Yeah, so I would say that, we're well aware of all the categories where we could play and add something, add some legitimate value to from a JL Audio standpoint. But we can't do everything at once. So you're gonna see some very cool stuff coming from us next year, new products, actually some starting to ship even late this summer, I would say. That will get into the outdoor space. But what we don't do is we don't take an existing product and just sort of try to massage it into a new category. We approach every project, distinctly for the ambitions of that product, the requirements of that category. And we don't move quickly. That is not our reputation. Our reputation is we do things really, really well, not really, really fast.
I learned a new term that kind of plays into what Doug is sharing with us. We were playing around with some different concepts of what we could do because of the technologies and the ideas that we have between the mobile, marine, and power sports, that kind of stuff that we could bring into the home sphere or maybe outdoor speakers. And some of the ideas were quickly discounted by a term that I had not heard before. It was parts bin engineering, where you go to the bin, you have all these parts, and you say, hey, let's put them together and make a product. We don't do that. And it drives us nuts, because if we did do that, we'd have product faster, but it wouldn't be our product. Yeah, it'd be our parts, but it wouldn't be a JL Audio purpose-designed and engineered product the way you guys come to expect it. So it is frustrating that we don't move fast, but when we do come out with a product, you'll see the effort that went into it, and it'll be worth it.
Is there any plans to add DARO for E subs or D subs? And also considering a Dominion 12-inch.
Well, those are all good ideas, interesting ideas. Not near term is what I would say, but completely valid questions. And again, there's lots of things that we're working on. So kind of have to give the political answer in that regard. But,
mute them.
Yes, but these are all things that we're well aware of, and certainly appreciate the question.
Absolutely. So let me just address the elephant in the room here. JL Audio for many years had a reputation of announcing product and not shipping it for years. Guilty as charged, absolutely. And the reason for the admission is we shared it because we were excited about it. We wanted to let our business partners and our customers know all the great things that we had going. But it caused a lot of frustration. People said, well, you said it was going to ship later this year, and then you didn't ship it. It's like, because we weren't done with it yet. And it sounds very flippant and very offhand, but the truth is we're not going to ship it until we are comfortable with it. Sometimes it takes longer than we expect. Now, what you don't know is on the backside of all of that, if we say something is shipping in 6 months, we fully expect that that's about 3 months longer than we think it's ever going to take. So we are pushing the date out. But sometimes things are out of our control. That a cardboard factory doesn't deliver the cardboard in time, so now we can't ship the product. Or the the material for the cone, the part of it goes on back order. We can't get the samples fast enough that we didn't foresee. Pandemic. But it's like these things happen and they're really hard to forecast. So what we've been really trying hard to do over the past several years, and we've gotten much better, and anyone that's dealt with us for a long time knows this, is we've been trying to not say too much about the specifics of what we're working on, but just to assure our partners that we're not sitting on our hands over here. We are working really hard on these ideas, and we are developing them. And when we are closer and feel more confident in an actual release date, we'll start letting you know a little bit more about them and planting some additional seeds so that when the product is ready, we can do a proper launch, get it to the stores and into your home theaters and two-channel systems the way you want them to be. So that's why we're kind of coy about saying exactly what we're working on. The other part of that is the way our engineering team works is, I think, I don't know, Doug, you might have better experience in this, unlike any other engineering department I'm aware of. They have so many different things that they're working on, and at any given point, they could be focused on one aspect or another of any one of those designs. And the analogy that Lucio shared with me some years ago, and it's not a great one, but it's good enough for this point, is you go to a carnival, like an outdoor festival, and they got those games of chance, right? You got the ring toss, and you got a bunch of these other ones. But you have the one where you roll the ball into the holes, and you make the horses advance. right? So just imagine if you have a rhythm going and you got the balls going into that one hole and that horse is moving really, really fast. That's engineering effort. All the different horses are the different engineering products. And we're throwing, the balls into the holes to move the horses along. And if we got a rhythm going on one and it's advancing really fast, we're going to put a lot of effort into that one horse. When we start missing, we'll move to another one. If we hit an obstacle in engineering effort, we'll shift our energy to something else that needs some attention, and we'll start moving another horse along. And again, that makes lead times very difficult to predict, but it gives us the ability to work on lots of different things concurrently without any one of them maybe going as fast as any of the other ones. Doug did make a comment. We can't do everything all the time. We've got a lot more going on than we're letting on, though.
We are working very hard.
Yes, without a doubt.
And Steve's just given me an idea. I'm going to go back to engineering and plug up all those holes.
The holes except for the one you want done.
There's only going to be one big hole for home, and that's it.
Cover the mobile holes, cover the marine holes.
I wish I had knew this sooner, Steve.
The secret's out. I hope everyone can get that, we actually do like each other. This is not fake. It is fun. It's not some stuffy company. We really do love this stuff. We get excited about the different projects we work on. And, Doug is obviously very focused on the home audio, but when he sees some of the things that we're doing in marine and mobile, he says, wow, that's really cool. I wonder what I can come up with that can take advantage of that. Because we're audio people. I mean, we are audio people. 100%. So at all levels, we got musicians in shipping and speaker manufacturing. We got people that they come up with ideas on how to make our product better from all levels of the company. It's not just the engineers, not just Doug or the trainers or the tech guys or any of that. It's all of us. We like this stuff. It's fun.
And it all interrelates because it comes back to music. So whether you're 100%. Enjoying music in your home or on your boat or in your car, it's the same experience.
I agree. Couldn't agree more. We are overtime, man, but you got good questions, nice engagement. I even see some people with cameras on.
Well, speaking from my standpoint, it's been a lot of fun. I'm hoping people enjoyed it, and I know we did.
Oh, definitely, yeah. This is good. It's overdue. So. Excellent stuff. We're going to pause here for a little while, see if the Facebook group, there's a bit of a lag between what we say and what they hear. So we'll give them a chance to ask some final questions, and then we'll log off, and we'll update everybody that was part of the WebEx on what other trainings are coming, and we'll post that for the Facebook group as well.